Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today, I'm going to be sharing a very simple practice. It's kind of a three-step process for meditation, and it's something that I do almost every time I sit down to meditate. It was also something very central to the way the Buddha taught meditation, and it begins with beginning with the breath. Using the breath as the first object, and then expanding and including the body along with the breath, and then softening and calming the body. And this can be done as a practice in and of itself, or it can be done as kind of the beginning to your meditation if you have a longer sit. And there's something very beautiful about meditating on the breath. I did a little research to see how long creatures have been breathing on planet Earth. And it turns out about 2.5 billion years. This was probably bacteria, I think, were the first things breathing. But it's an incredible thing to be aware of, that what's happening, respiration that's happening through this very human body, is we're tapping into something very ancient and actually quite profound, I think, in that way. So we'll begin with about a 15-minute meditation just to share this practice with you. So wherever you're sitting, finding a comfortable posture, you can allow the shoulders to relax. If it feels supportive, you can close your eyes or you can rest your gaze on the ground or the floor in front of you. And just set the intention for the next 15 minutes to just be here. Setting down the to-do list, setting down having to be anybody, and dropping into simply being aware and grounding our awareness in this human body. So to begin, just noticing that this body is already breathing. And we can stretch out the lungs by taking a few longer, slower, deeper breaths. Particularly opening into the lower belly, which sometimes is restricted. Inhaling and exhaling into the whole torso. And as you feel ready, just allowing the breath to return to normal. And what would it be like to be aware of just the breath? There's this air flowing in from outside, coming into the body, and then again being released. What does it feel like to be aware of the actual breath? The wind. As it enters through your nose or your mouth into the lungs and is exhaled. Just allowing your mind to settle on this kind of invisible movement, which the body is doing all day, every day. Feeling the space that the breath creates. Noticing the beginning of the inhalation, the full duration of the inhalation, the pause, and then the beginning of the exhalation, duration of the exhalation, and noticing the pause at the end of the exhalation. This breath provides a steady flow and something for which the mind to rest upon. And now, while still including the breath, begin to expand our awareness to encompass this whole body. So just noticing from your feet and legs all the way up to the top of your head, that this whole body is receiving each breath. The inhalation brings oxygen into the blood flow, which moves throughout the entire body. The exhalation releases what is not needed and softens the body. And we have this nervous system which permeates the body. So human awareness is not narrow but broad. And using the breath and the body provides a wide canvas for our awareness, opens our awareness from any contractions, and spreads it across the body. Noticing how the body receives each breath. The rise and fall in the chest or the belly. Noticing the back of the rib cage also expands and contracts. The shoulders rise and fall. And it's possible to breathe into and along with the lower half of the body as well. Breathing into the legs. Noticing the thighs, the calves, and the feet. Just taking a minute to rest in this full body awareness and using the breath and the rhythm of the breath, just like currents or waves moving through the body, to stabilize the mind. Now, with our awareness immersed in the body and the breath, we'll begin to soften and release any unnecessary tension which the body may be holding. Soft body, soft mind. So releasing any unnecessary tension in the head. And we'll start at the top of the scalp. Noticing, releasing any tension in the forehead. In the middle of the head, the thinking mind, just using the breath to soften, open, and release any holding that may be there. Relaxing the jaw, allowing the tongue to fall naturally in the bottom of the mouth. And moving down through the neck and the throat. Is there any tension being held in the neck? Is the throat constricted? Again, just allowing the breath to soften and open. And moving down, relaxing the shoulders. Allowing them to fall back naturally. And this allows the arms and the hands to relax as well. No need to hold them up right now, just feeling the weight of them. Allowing the rhythm of the breath to soften and open any constriction in the chest or the belly. Allowing the out-breath to really soften, and especially the end of the out-breath, noticing if there's any more tension that just can let go at the end of the out-breath and the whole torso. And then finally coming into this lower half of the body. Noticing the sit bones, the contact points with the chair, the cushion that you're on. Softening into the thighs, the upper half of the legs. Relaxing the knees, the shins, the calf muscles, all the way down through the feet. And for this last minute, just coming back to this whole body awareness of the body breathing. And noticing the quality of your mind. Soft body, soft mind. The softening and relaxing of the unnecessary tension in the body can also release any unnecessary tension which the mind may be holding. So thank you for taking the time to sit and to practice. And I just wanted to reflect a little bit on this kind of 3-step process, which is really central to the way the Buddha taught meditation, particularly in mindfulness of breathing and what are called the 4 foundations of mindfulness. This was kind of a central beginning practice. He used it as a way of kind of immersing the mind in the body. And he also said that mindfulness of breathing was his central meditation practice. So when he would go off on his month-long retreats, and he would come back and people would say, people are asking, what are you doing? What are you out there doing in the middle of nowhere by yourself? And he would say, tell him I'm practicing mindfulness of breathing. And I think it's something that is central to all of the Buddhist traditions around the world, have different practices, but mindfulness of breathing in some way or form is included in all of them. And so this practice is like kind of a signature sequence that he used before many of his practices, but it can be also used especially for a shorter meditation, just kind of on its own. In this meditation particularly, I kind of stretched it out and drew it out a little bit, because sometimes it can feel nice to just really have the opportunity to really soften and release any tension in the body and really just immerse the mind and our awareness in the body and the breath. So I'll start with talking about the breath. And in this style of practice that we're doing, generally we're tuning into the breath as it naturally is. There are a lot of different styles of breathing that can be done in meditation, and I think they all serve a great purpose. But in tuning into kind of the breath as it is, what we're doing is just kind of letting go of control. And also the breathing process, when it's not manipulated or controlled especially, is related to the autonomic nervous system. These are all the functions of the body that are happening all on their own. So the heart is pumping, Blood is moving through the body, the breath. And so when we tune our mind and our awareness into these processes, it's really a releasing of control. And we can kind of let our mind, our egoic mind, sit down and just tune into the body as it is. And this is kind of a beautiful thing. It's also, I think there's something very insightful that there's all these processes happening in the body that we don't do them ourselves, right? It's just part of nature happening through us, which is quite beautiful. And also what's helpful about the breath in particular is it gives it gives the mind something to do. The mind is like a task machine. So for these minutes where we're sitting down in meditation, it's saying, here's your job. You're just going to watch this breath. I know it might seem boring, but just for this time, just watch it. Immerse yourself in it. If you get lost, come back to it. Notice the nuance of it, and it gives the conceptual mind or the thinking mind or the attentive mind something to really focus on, and that helps the rest of the body and our awareness settle in a deeper way. And what the breath does in meditation is it serves as an anchor. And my main encouragement is just to find any way of focusing on the breath that's supportive for you. Some people use the nose or the throat or the chest or the belly. It doesn't really matter. The idea is to find a way of being aware of the breath that doesn't cause you distress, first of all, because sometimes for people, the breathing can actually be a source of anxiety or stress. So it's important to find a way where it's not anxiety inducing, but actually supports further calming and settling of the mind. I particularly find what I was suggesting at the beginning of that meditation, like the actual breath, rather than even the physical sensations of the breath to start. Like, can I just be aware of the movement of the air and the wind coming in and out of the body? For me particularly, that feels quite calming and relaxing. Spacious, it kind of helps me open and soften my mind. And it also starts to widen our awareness as we become aware of the full process of the breath. We can open into the whole body, which is the second step there. And as we shift towards opening into the whole body, what we're tapping into is actually the full capacity of this human nervous system. So our mind is not just here in the head, but it's wired down through the entire body to the tips of our fingers, the tips of our toes, through our torso, our legs. And so as we root our awareness, what we're doing is we're actually beginning to open up and use this full capacity of the mind, which is immersed in the body. And I think this is directly related to our intuition and kind of a non-conceptual wisdom which the body holds. People often say, I have a gut feeling about something. There's something about tuning into this awareness immersed in the body, which really taps into a non-conceptual knowing, which can bring a lot of clarity to the mind. And over time, when practiced, this will become more and more natural. For myself, I've noticed this experience where it's like the more I've done this practice, the more the body begins to kind of light up, and it's easier to tune into this body awareness because it's something that I've done repeatedly over time. Sometimes as I'm moving through my days, I can notice like I feels like I'm just living all up here and I'm not even really aware of my body. But because of some years of practice, it's easier for me to just go, wait, come back to this whole body, whether I'm chopping food or driving my car, coming back, and immediately I feel my mind kind of release and open. And over a lifetime of practice, this can really help release some maybe chronic tension which may be held, and also release some deep holding around emotions as well. There's this really important process that we got to at the end where we're softening and releasing any unnecessary tension in the body. And so this can be tension that's come up over the process of a day or of a lifetime. There can be a lot of tension which comes up. So I find it really helpful to do on a daily basis, because I can notice, like, oh, here's my shoulders from doing this all day at a desk or whatever. So just opening, coming back, softening that. And over time, what I found it really helpful for is releasing some of the subconscious tension. For me, it's particularly often in the belly. And repeatedly doing this over and over again, the body begins to learn the signal of softening, of unconstricting the body, as opposed to clenching and holding in ways that we might not even notice is happening. So when we do this repeatedly over and over again, the body begins to take this message in. Okay, that's right. It doesn't help for me to just tighten up with whatever I'm doing. And it might be protective, but over time, as we can begin to soften and open this sometimes long-held tension, it can begin to really open up a release of emotions in the body as well. Sometimes fear or grief or anxiety can be held, especially in this torso of the body. So coming back and just opening and softening and releasing can begin to also allow the emotional body to flow and to release. And this can also happen in daily life. If I feel anger coming up as I'm driving, sometimes I can just notice that and just say, I'm not going to constrict around this. I'm not going to hold this. I can just feel that, let it go, move through, and focus on what I'm doing so I don't get caught up in anger or worrying about something is another one that's big for me, and that also holds constriction. So calming the body, we also calm the mind, and this allows a release from the egoic mind, from the self. We have this, every human being has an identity, right? There's no way around it. It's not a bad thing in and of itself. And it's as our collective ideas about who we are, our place, our plans, all of which are helpful and necessary to survive and live a healthy life. But what can happen is our awareness can become almost enmeshed in that all the time. And what we can begin to see in mindfulness of breathing is that actually it's possible to live and to experience life not constantly caught up and preoccupied with the self. And mindfulness of breathing is a great practice for that. As we soften the body, as we soften the mind, we begin to get a glimpse into the mind, which is released from preconceptions, notions about who we are, plans, ideas, remembering of the past, and just experience the mind and the awareness in this open and kind of spacious, one could say it's a natural state. And this de-identification with the self can be deeply freeing and is really kind of at the heart of Buddhist meditation. So living in a culture that places such a huge emphasis on success and achieving things, I think sitting down for 15 minutes and just breathing is actually kind of a radical act. It's kind of a radical thing to do. And I just applaud you for taking the time, and would encourage you to continue and practice as much as, feels supportive for you on a daily basis if you can, because it really gives the mind an opportunity to settle into the body in a deep way and to soften and release some of that unnecessary tension, which in turn helps free the mind and the heart. So thank you for taking the time to sit, to practice, to listen, and hope to see you again very soon. Be well.